All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're getting into a concept that's absolutely central to microeconomics, but more importantly, it's something every single manager has to understand: human capital. You've all heard that corporate cliche, right? Our people are our greatest asset. Well, today we're going to stop treating that like a slogan on a poster and start treating it like what it is, an economic reality. We're going to explore how we can actually measure the value of skills and trace a direct line from those skills to productivity, and, ultimately, to the wages people earn.
So here's our game plan for today's session. First, we're going to lay the groundwork, really nailing down the theory of human capital. Then, we're immediately going to throw that theory into the real world with a fascinating case study from Tanjung Lesung, where things weren't working. After that, we'll play detective and diagnose the problem, what we call the skills gap. Then comes the fun part. We'll put some numbers on it and prove the link to productivity. And finally, we'll connect all the dots, showing the clear economic path from skills to wages. By the end of this, you'll have a solid framework for thinking about this in any business you run.
Okay, section 1, and this right here is the most important mental shift you need to make as a manager. You have to stop thinking about your people as a line item on an expense report and start seeing them as an investment portfolio. Think about it. An expense is something you try to cut, and an investment is something you nurture because you expect a massive return. This isn't just playing with words. It changes everything about how you hire, train, and lead your team. We're not spending on salaries. We are allocating capital to assets that we expect to grow in value.
So what exactly are we investing in? Let's get a formal definition on the table. Human capital is the stock of skills, knowledge, and experience that a person has. In finance, a company has a stock of physical capital. Its factories, its computers. Well, human capital is the exact same idea, but for your people. Every training program, every challenging project, every piece of good advice from a mentor, think of it as a deposit into that person's human capital account. And just like any good investment, that stock is supposed to grow over time, increasing their value to the organization.
Now, this is the whole lecture in a single line. It's the core idea that we're going to spend the rest of our time proving. This is the causal chain. The theory says there's a direct link. You increase a person's human capital, their skills, and that leads to a measurable increase in their productivity. That extra productivity creates more revenue for the company, and in a competitive market, wages are ultimately tied to the value an employee creates. Our mission today is to test every single link in this chain and see if it holds up.
All right, enough theory for a minute. Let's see what happens when these ideas crash into the messy, complicated real world. It's easy to talk about these equations in a classroom, but the real test is what happens on the ground. So we're heading to Tanjung Lesung, a place where this beautiful, logical chain we just talked about seems to be completely broken. And here it is, the heart of the problem. You've got a supply of labor, local people who desperately need jobs. And you have the demand for labor, these big, fancy resorts that need workers. It should be a perfect match, right? But it's not. There's this huge mismatch between the skills people have and the skills the businesses need. This isn't just a small issue. It creates what economists call friction in the market. For the resorts, it means they can't fill key roles, their service stinks, and they're less profitable. And for the local community, it means they're stuck in low-paying jobs or unemployed, even with opportunities staring them right in the face. So if you were the manager brought in to fix this, your first job isn't to start throwing solutions around. It's to be a doctor. You have to diagnose the problem with precision. You can't just solve a vague skills gap. You have to break it down. What exactly is missing? What are the specific skills that are keeping your workforce from being as productive as they could be? Let's perform an autopsy on this particular skills gap.
And when we look closely, we find it's not one problem, it's 3 distinct problems. First, the soft skills. We're talking about a service mindset, communication, even basic grooming for a high-end resort. This isn't just fluff. A bad customer experience directly hits your revenue through bad reviews and no repeat business. Second, the hard skills. Things like English proficiency or knowing how to use the hotel's property management software. Without these, the expensive technology the resort bought is basically useless. It leads to chaos, inefficiency, and lost money. And third, and this one is the killer, is the supervisory gap. This missing middle is so dangerous. If you don't have good mid-level managers, your senior leaders get sucked into putting out daily fires instead of thinking strategically. And your frontline workers never get the coaching they need to grow. It's a bottleneck that just strangles the entire organization.
Now we get to the proof. How do we go from just talking about these gaps to actually showing how much they cost the business? We have to connect these skills directly to productivity with cold, hard numbers. So let's use a really simple model to see just how powerful this link is.
I want you to picture a small business, say a coffee shop, and you've got two baristas. They have the same job title, but they represent two totally different levels of human capital. One is pretty new, knows the basics, but that's it. The other one, they're a pro. They've gone to courses, they've perfected their technique, they've mastered the workflow. To a customer, they might just look like two people making coffee, but from a business perspective, their value is not even in the same ballpark.
And this chart just lays it bare. It's stunning. The unskilled worker can make maybe 5 drinks an hour. The skilled one, using the exact same coffee machine, the same beans, the same everything, cranks out 20. And here's the absolute key insight. The skilled barista is not working 4 times harder. They're working 4 times smarter. Their human capital, their knowledge, their technique, it acts as a massive multiplier on their physical effort. That is the economic return on a skill.
So what's the bottom line for the business? It's simple. The skilled worker isn't just making 4 times more coffee. They're generating 4 times more revenue. Let's do the math. If a drink is $5, the first barista brings in $25 of revenue an hour. The skilled one brings in $100 an hour. Now think like a manager. You could pay that skilled barista, say, $30 an hour, which is an amazing wage, and you're still making $70 an hour in gross margin off their labor. The higher wage isn't a cost, it's you sharing a piece of the extra value they created. The investment pays for itself almost instantly.
This brings us to a really important crossroads. When you see a situation like Tanjung Lesung where wages are stubbornly low, the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people is to say, well, the government should just step in, mandate a higher minimum wage. But as students of microeconomics, we have to ask a smarter question. Does that actually fix the root cause of the problem, which is low productivity? Or is it just putting a bandage on a much deeper wound? And that leads us perfectly into our final section, where we go from being doctors who diagnose the problem to engineers who design the solution. The most sustainable, powerful solution isn't about forcing a business to pay a wage it can't afford. It's about creating the economic conditions inside the business where paying a higher wage is the most logical, profitable decision a manager can make. It's all about building on the productivity gains we just saw. And the name for that solution is upskilling. It's the deliberate, strategic process of investing in your people to close those skills gaps we identified. Now here's the fancy economics term for it. You are intentionally increasing the marginal revenue product of your workforce. Let's break that down, because it's not as complicated as it sounds. Marginal just means the impact of one more hour of work. Revenue product is just the amount of money that hour of work generates. So by upskilling your team, you're making it so that every hour they work generates more cash for the company. And when your employees are making more money for you, it becomes a no-brainer to pay them more too. It creates this amazing virtuous cycle where everyone wins.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to wrestle with. A real strategic challenge. We've just made, I hope, a very compelling business case for upskilling. It drives productivity, it allows for higher wages, it's a win-win. But it leaves us with a really big question. Whose job is it? Is it the company's responsibility to constantly invest in and develop its employees to stay competitive? Or is it up to each individual to invest in their own skills to make sure they stay valuable in the job market? There is no easy answer here. And how you and your future organizations decide to tackle that question, well, that's going to define your success for years to come.